Last call. We're back. Another episode. It's almost exclusively basketball at this point of the year, but I almost wouldn't have it any other way. We're picking up at the right time for UINDY Basketball. We'll start on the women's side of things as the end of their season. It's something to behold because you have them sitting at the 8th spot right now, or at least coming into these last two games, sitting at the 8th spot, trying to crawl out of it. And as we take a look at both of those games, both Thursday and Saturday, we saw the best and worst from this team.
Yeah, you see, Thursday, they played William Jewell, bottom feeder in the GLVC. They made work of them. They was close in the first half. Second half, they were able to pull away. But then you look over at that Saturday game, it was against Rockhurst, who they were 6th in the conference heading in. It was a big game for both teams for playoffs. I mean, this was almost a must-win for both teams. And it was a phenomenal game, close the entire way through. It was senior day for the Greyhounds, 5 seniors on that squad. But what a game this was, Caden.
It's important to note that back earlier in the season, you go to Kansas City, you play at Rockhurst, a pretty weird, funky gym, if you will, and then you come back home. You remember that game in Kansas City lost by, 14 after being down by over 20 most of the game. So you have that late comeback effort, and then you come back to Indianapolis where you control the pace of the game, you control the rhythm, you're destroying their press throughout the entire game. And then it's the final 2 minutes. That's where it all comes together, the final 2 minutes. And even then, you have the lead, you have the energy. 2 free throws at the line are missed that time, but then you hand the ball back to Rockhurst. They draw up a play, which I actually talked to Coach after. Rockhurst had not run their end game set right at all. You had Keegan Sullivan, who caught it at the free throw line. It was supposed to be a back cut to the basket, free up for a layup. However, she isolates herself up top and
she just chucked one up. I mean, it almost looked like a hope and prayer kind of shot, and she nailed it. I mean, it's not what you could do for the Greyhounds. You defended the play well, but Sullivan, I mean, she's one of the best players in the GLVC, so it's no surprise that she nailed that to win what was a huge game for the Hawks.
I called it a Larry Bird-esque shot. Over the head, threw it up, it went in, counts for 3, just the same. And that's a win for Rockhurst. So UINDY, as they head into their final 2 games, looking to creep into the conference tournament, what's that landscape look like?
So right now, after the recent games, they are still tied in 8th with UMSL. Same exact points in the point rating system, because that's what the GLVC uses for their top 8 seeding. And then they play UMSL on Thursday at UMSL. That game essentially might be a play-in game for both the Greyhounds and the Tritons.
Could not come at a better time as we head into the men's squad. They're not exactly in the same situation, right? They're protecting that number 1 spot, and they're kind of letting the rest of the GLVC unfold and whatever may happen there. So take a look at their weekend. They're starting to string some confidence along, and on senior day, they get it done against Rockhurst handily, just like last time in Kansas City.
Once again, it was close to begin. We've seen the Greyhounds first half not always be exactly the team we know they can be, but second half, whatever Corsaro says in that locker room at halftime, it'd be a feat to see what he says, because the Greyhounds always come out a new, refreshed squad out of the halftime break. They did it once again, and they just pulled away slowly. Once again, they wore out Rockhurst over the course of the game. You could tell Rockhurst just wasn't in it. I mean, Rockhurst, they started out the day phenomenal shooting. I think they hit 5 threes in the first few minutes from one guy almost. So, I mean, but Rockhurst, they had the shooting going, but they reverted back to the mean second half, and the Greyhounds made them pay with Choa. Yeah, and Jarvis Walker especially.
They hit 16 threes on the day. You mentioned Choa and Jay Walk. Jarvis had 31 points on the night. And Choa, he had 21, 17. Josiah Tynes, also being celebrated on senior night, had 5 points, but 8 assists as well. David Ejah, 5 points, 5 blocks, which isn't even it's not even a season high. This guy had 6 earlier in the year. So to see those 4 guys play the way that they did, that's awesome. Jesse, didn't even mention his stat line. He had a great game as well. And for them,
they're putting it together. They're starting to, I mean, you're entering postseason play. You're entering March basketball. You know how important this time is to get the team right heading into the postseason. And they are getting it going now.
UMSL and McKendree, 2 teams where if you look back to last season, UMSL was a team that broke the 18-game win streak. And McKendree, well, that was a team that knocked UINDY out of the Midwest Regional last year, hosting, nonetheless, here in Indianapolis, which they might have a chance to do again, Jace.
They're right in the border right now. The first official regional rankings are going to be released tomorrow. So we have some big news possibly coming to Greyhounds, probably top 3 in the region. Them, Lake Superior, and Northern Michigan are the top 3 probably in the region right now. But we'll see where they land because they all have very similar records. The Greyhounds obviously lost to Lake Superior, so we'll see if they fall behind them because of the head-to-head record. But interesting rankings coming out tomorrow.
Both Northern Michigan and Lake Superior lost last time, so that will beg the question. Greyhounds could possibly move up to that 1 spot in the region. With that 1 spot, you get to host the entire Midwest Regional. That is huge. That does it for Greyhound basketball. We're going to hop in to some IU Purdue after this on Last Call.
So the overall mission here at Flanner House Indy is to help with the development and growth, the self-efficiency and self-sufficiency of the near northwest side of Indianapolis. When the AA closed in the area, that left the near northwest side a food desert. So Brandon Cosby, the executive director of Flanner House, started with the Flanner House Farms, where they grow fresh produce organically for the neighborhood around. And then later on down the line, Cleo's came about. So we're here to help with the sustainability of getting fresh food at cheap prices to the locals around. Black owned, black ran. That's the gist of Cleo's for the most part.
College basketball beginning to ramp up. March Madness inching ever closer. We cannot wait on that. And I don't think any of these teams can either. 2 that we're going to highlight today, IU and Purdue. We'll first start with IU, and I think they're just hoping, praying to have somewhat of an NCAA tournament chance. But would you say that's out the window?
Yeah, I mean, sitting at 14-13 now, you've lost, I think, 4 or 5 of your last 6 or so. They really don't have much of a chance heading into the end of the season. They still have 4 games left. The odds they win even 2 of those are very low. They don't have it in any easy way. I mean, the Big Ten is not easy in any regards. I think IU's only chance at making the NCAA tournament at this point is to win the Big Ten tournament. And right now, they're in that first round as the 11 seed. And that would be, they had to win 4 games or 5 games in 5 straight days to win the tournament. That's almost impossible.
IU, they're coming off a game where Malik Renew had an impressive 27-6. But at just 14-13 on the year, I think to myself, what are we doing at head coach after this season?
So I think most of the IU fans, including me, knew it was going to be maybe a down year for Indiana. They didn't have the recruits coming in that they normally have. They brought in some great transfers like Kalel Ware. He's been okay this season. But next season they have plenty of great recruits coming in. I think they'll keep Woodson 1 more year, allow him another recruiting round. But if the team is a failure next year, that's it for Woodson.
I think it's a short leash on Woodson because, frankly, this is a storied program who has seen some good success. But at the same time, I don't think you're seeing the development from guys like Mbako. I don't think you're seeing it. Even though we're seeing Renew start to come into it now, I feel like he's just not where he could be in terms of talent. Obviously, he may just be one and done at IU and then see his NBA dreams realized. But I think the pieces are there. And as you said last year, I'm having a short leash on him. I think Gabe Cupps can, eventually grow into that Braden Smith role for Purdue. Yeah. But talent-wise, what steps does IU need to take? So,
like I said, they have Gabe Cupps. I think he's the point guard of the future for Indiana. Mbako, he might be NBA bound coming into it. He was a 5-star recruit. More than likely he's going to be a one and done. But he hasn't performed at the level that I think many people expected him to do. So, in my opinion, I think Mbako will stay 1 more year, try and prove himself to the NBA scouts, and then go to the draft. So I think 1 more year for Mbako should do him right.
IU fans, if not this year, maybe next year.
Probably not.
That's what we'll go with right now as we head once again into Purdue, who's seeing a very different season. Just 3 losses on the year, and they're 3rd ranked in the country. Coming off a game against Michigan, an impressive outing from them. 84-76 win. Zach Edey, almost the usual 35-15 from probably a 2-time National Player of the Year.
Yeah, he's 100% right now. Your runaway number 1 player in the country, which I think most people expected him to be. I mean, last season he only improved this season, improving his game even more. And, I mean, when you got a dude that tall, he's muscular, he can do anything down low. No one can guard him. Like, look at that. He's just, with 3 defenders guarding him, what more can you do against Zach Edey, Caden?
You know, he's a man amongst boys. In that scenario, there's not a whole lot that you can do, but an interesting thing about Edey, this is his last go-around with the Boilermakers.
It is.
And as a Purdue fan, you might be shaking your head saying, well, why? I think Edey has been very vocal about how he feels about his game, about how he feels he's progressing. You saw, even though just the one 3-point basket made against IU at Mackey. I think Edey is confident in his ability to play at the next level. And as we progress through the end of February into March, Edey's going to do his thing. And next year, we'll possibly see him at the pro level in the NBA, probably some G League minutes if I had to guess. Yeah. But as we look at this Purdue team as a whole, heading into the postseason, Edey's there. What else does Purdue need?
I think as long as the guard play is there for Purdue, there's no reason they can't win the NCAA tournament. Braden Smith is performing like a point guard. Lance Jones has been pretty good in that guard forward role. They have the squad there. If they're able to perform those guards and the forwards alongside Zach Edey, they are the best team in all of college basketball 100% in my opinion.
Last year, my holdup with Purdue was they did not have a go-to guy. And I think that's where they get caught in these late season scenarios. They do not have the go-to guy that can create his own bucket from the wing. Obviously, Zach Edey can play one-on-one against anybody, but he's never going to get the chance to play one-on-one against anybody, right? So you can have shooters, you can play that inside out. When it comes down to it, you need a set for your life, a set for the game. I don't know who they go to. Fletcher Lawyer's a great shooter, a great offensive player, but can he create that bucket for himself is what I'm asking. And Braden Smith, he's in a similar scenario in that regard. An amazing offensive player, amazing two-way player at that, but you put him on the wing, ball in his hands, 3 seconds left. Do you trust Braden Smith taking this? Who on Purdue would you trust taking that shot?
I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, they have the players there, but they're not always the best shooters by any means. Purdue, like you said, I don't think they have that go-to guy necessarily. I think Zach Edey, I think they're kind of planning on just staying in front of teams, not allowing that opportunity to come out in the postseason play.
Make it a habit of winning by double digits, and it's not something that you'll have to worry about. But Purdue's looking good heading into March. I know there's some other teams pretty close. Kentucky, one name I might throw out.
Kentucky's still down there. I don't know about Kentucky, but UConn, the defending national champions, number 1 in the country unanimously right now. They got the squad, in my opinion, to win it all once again.
March Madness is going to be special here on Last Call. We're going to bring up the video wall. We're going to make our own picks live, and we're going to see who can get it done. Similar to our Pick'em segment that's up later, but we're going to talk Pacers first before that when we come back on Last Call.
Emma Donnan, elementary and middle school. Discover the Donnan difference. A school where you can celebrate others. Come together as a community. Be a part of a learning environment where students and teachers are appreciated. Emma Donnan. A culture that can't be beat, that's going onward together. A school filled with love. Emma Donnan.
I love my school.
We're back in the Last Call. Recap some Indiana basketball at the D2 level, the D1 level, and now we're going to talk Pacers in the NBA, of course, coming off a huge win last night against Dallas. And that's an MVP candidate on that squad, and Luka Doncic. He ended with 33, 6, and 6, but the Pacers handed it pretty easily. 133, 111. What are you seeing from the Circle City here?
Well, I mean, the Mavericks came into this one with the second longest winning streak in the NBA. 8 wins in a row. That was since the trade deadline when they got 2 great pickups in Daniel Gafford and I think P.J. Washington were the 2 they picked up, and they've been both phenomenal for the Mavericks so far. They've looked like a real contender these last few weeks. The Pacers just dismantled them. It was a close game most of the way through. Fourth quarter, the Pacers just pulled away. How about Ben Shepherd? The second-round rookie knocking down 4 threes in the fourth quarter, 5 for 5 from outside the arc on the day, 15 points.
Ben Shepherd went to a game earlier this year where he did not play a single second in the first 3 quarters. He comes in the fourth, plays nearly 12 minutes in the fourth, and he's so much fun to watch. The guy's
the
energy
offense
that he brings back.
He shoots the ball well, and he is one of the best defensive players on the squad. Only as a rookie, the Pacers needed some of that defensive effort on the floor, and Shepherd provides those minutes when they need it.
I think it's the defense really that sees the minutes off the bench, because you've heard from Rick time and time again the fact that if you're not going to play defense, he said it to Ben Mathurin. I mean, I'm sure Nembhard gets that speech as well. If you cannot play two-way on this team, which is something that the Pacers have definitely struggled with, you're not going to play. So Ben Shepherd, not only filling that defensive role, but as you said, hitting those 4 threes is absolutely huge, not only for his career, but for the Pacers and as they progress.
And it's surprising to me, too, because coming out of the draft, you draft Jarris Walker and Ben Shepherd, you think that Walker is going to be that guy that plays a lot of minutes. He's played barely all the season, and Shepherd is providing those fourth quarter clutch minutes that we really didn't expect. I mean, coming out of college, he wasn't known as a defensive prospect. He was known more as a three-point shooter. But immediately into his career, obviously Carlisle's working on his defensive game, and Shepherd is listening well and providing those efforts.
A different role that he's responding to very, very well. But how about Miles Turner? Haven't even brought him up. 33 points, 8 rebounds for him. We see games where he's an all-star, and we see games where he looks like a below-average center. I'm thinking of the in-season tournament. I don't know if I've still lost that grudge yet. Mm-hmm. But last night, if that sustains, this Pacers team can be legit.
If Miles Turner is able to play that way the rest of the season, this Pacers team is a real contender in the Eastern Conference. Because you see Siakam filling that 4 spot perfectly. You have the Mathurin, you have the Nembhard, the Nesmith, the Halliburton. They have a phenomenal squad. It's well put together. And if Turner can sustain these points and rebounding especially, because rebounding is always a problem for him as a center for some odd reason, if he can sustain that level of play, the Pacers are going to be a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference come playoff time.
Top 4 team in the Eastern Conference. Hey, I mean, they have the talent to do so. I think coming off the bench, they might give up some to teams, I feel like. But I do think Miles Turner is the X factor. Mm-hmm. If he plays well, the Pacers play well. If he plays defense, if he locks down that paint, the Pacers' defense isn't necessarily bad either. And if they do get in the shootouts, you're playing a Mavericks team who is one of the best offensive teams in the nation.
In these last 2 or 3 games, they've played phenomenal defense when it's needed to be done. In this game especially, it was close come the fourth quarter. The defense locked in the entire last 12 minutes and got a 20-point win against one of the best teams in the NBA in the last month or so.
Looking into next game for the Pacers, that's actually tonight against the Raptors in Indianapolis. Raptors, I don't think they're as bad as we thought they were going to be after they made the trade to the Knicks, but still not exactly a championship caliber team, a game that the Pacers should win handily.
100%. They beat them in the last game before the All-Star break by 2 in Toronto. That was Siakam's return to Toronto. He played a phenomenal game. I think he had 23 points or something like that, 5 rebounds, 7 assists in his first game back in Toronto. So I expected a very similar game today, but more of a blowout for the Pacers, you would think. But the Pacers have seemed to struggle with some of these lower bottom-tier teams so far this year. They've lost multiple games to Charlotte, to Portland twice. Other ones I can't remember off the top of my head. But they've lost some of these big games. I mean, these games that they should win that really have put them behind in the Eastern Conference.
A team that could win against anybody and lose against anybody.
That's the Pacers.
The perfect embodiment of that and the Pacers. As the East, Boston, Cleveland, Milwaukee, New York, and the Pacers working to get into that mix. In the West, Minnesota, OKC, Denver, and the Clippers who have fell. As we head into our new segment, we're going to call it Primetime Pick'em. We're going to pick, I think, 11 games a week. Any game on Primetime TV this week, we're going to go through. We're going to pick our winners. We're going to have some scores, have our records up, and that's how we decide who's doing their job better between me and Jace. When we say head-to-head, we mean head-to-head every time on Last Calls. We hop into the first game to cover Mavericks and Cavs. You have the Mavericks, who are 8th in the West, against the Cavs, who are red hot as of late, 2nd in the East. I'm going to start with mine. I think the Mavericks, even though they come off a loss to the Pacers, This is an MVP candidate that's going to bounce back. You mentioned they were on a huge winning streak. This gets that off the mind. Luka's going to go get his 35-8-8, and the Cavs will not be able to stop that defensively.
The Mavericks, they've been hot. The Cavaliers have been hotter. They are now second Eastern Conference. Give me Cleveland in this one. Second Eastern Conference, I mean, they're trying to chase Boston. I think Boston has that gap, but give me Cleveland in this one at home.
It's at home.
Yeah.
It's two offenses. They're going to be great. I just feel like if you want to have a shootout, like that one-on-one battle, if you have Donovan Mitchell and Luka, I want Luka. And I think
I give Cleveland's defense the edge here.
Okay.
You have Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, some great defensive
Those bigs
forwards,
those bigs are great. And Mavericks have improved in that regard. I don't think they're Cleveland, but hey, that's why we pick them. I got the Mavericks anyway. In any matter, it does not matter. Luka, he's an MVP, probably the MVP, not a candidate. He's the MVP.
No, I don't think so.
Well, whatever you say, Jace.
I said,
whatever you say. Next game on the slate, 76ers are at Boston. And Jace.
This one's easy. Philadelphia, still no Embiid. Boston, best team in the NBA. Boston at home, they rarely lose at home. No way Boston loses this.
In the Garden. Yeah, I think you're right. This is arguably the best team in the league with a couple of the best players in the league on that squad. And Jason Tatum, pretty easy win for Boston given they played the way we know they can. Next up, Rockets at Thunder. Thunder, one of the best teams in the West right now as they sit in the standings at that 2, right behind Minnesota. I like the Thunder in this one.
Do you?
I do. I do like the Thunder just because they have too much firepower offensively, defensively. Chet's good. Shea's good. I think they're sneakily one of the best benches on the squad as well, and I feel like they call it an AAU team, but they play really well together. You
know, it wouldn't be the NBA with a little upsets here and there. Give me the Houston Rockets in this one. I mean, you're talking about trying to win a head-to-head pick 'em. There's going to be some upsets in there. The NBA, it's very hard to pick exactly the right. I mean, you can't always pick the big teams to win because these losses like this, they happen.
I know what you mean.
So, I mean, the Thunder, they're still, I mean, they're a great team, don't get me wrong. I don't believe they're the best team in the Western Conference, though. I think Houston in this one slightly wins. I mean, it's in OKC even. It'll be tough to tell. But I want to give an upset here for Houston.
As we opt into Wednesday now, 2 games on the slate, including the Pacers, who we just covered. They'll be at home against the Pelicans. Jace, are you thinking hometown hero?
Call it bias, call it what you want. Give me Indiana.
Indiana. I think they're playing good right now. I think things are starting to click for them offensively, defensively. And the Pelicans, it seems like they're just kind of disappointing, right?
I mean,
with Brandon Ingram,
they're
with
right
Zion.
there on the cusp of being a great team, but also in the bottom tier. I think they're 7th in the West right now. I mean, they have the players, Zion, Brandon Ingram, McCollum's there still, right? They have a squad, but
they haven't put it together.
Yeah.
They might make the playoffs. If I had to guess, they drop a little bit, maybe even play the play-in game. Pacers, they're offense.
Yeah, right now they're right in the play in the 7th spot.
In the 7th. And I don't see them getting any better this season.
And the West is very heavy in that area from 4 to 8.
It's anybody's game.
It could be anyone to play in at this point.
Anybody's game. Pacers, unanimous here on last call. They're going to take that one. Heading into the second game on the slate, the battle for Los Angeles, the Lakers and the Clippers. I have been a big fan of this team. Almost every episode on last call. Shoot them out back in February. Not back in February. About start of the year. The start of the year. And since then, they've been great. I like the Clippers winning against the Lakers.
I concur. The Clippers have owned the Lakers in these last few LA battles. I don't see any way they lose this one. Not with the squad they have right now, not with how hot they've been recently. I mean, they've lost 2 of the last 3 games, don't get me wrong, but they're still better than the Lakers and LeBron James in this one.
LeBron, he'll just have to take that one on the chin. As we head into Thursday, another 2-game slate. Heat at the Nuggets. At home, Denver, the defending champs.
It's an NBA Finals rematch.
What do you think, Jace?
It's a tough one to call. I'm going to go Denver, though.
Denver?
I think defending NBA champions against the team they beat last time. Denver, my MVP is there.
Okay.
Jokic is my MVP right now. You see the numbers he's putting up? I think he had 35, 16, and 16 last game. That shouldn't be possible. That should not be humanly possible in the NBA. Luka puts up those numbers too, but Jokic does it better, in my opinion.
Well, we'll see at the conclusion of the season. We'll see how the rest of the season unfolds. I like Miami. Give me
What?
Miami. Jimmy Butler is going to turn it on. He's going to flip a switch.
Okay.
And we're going to see
No,
one of
he's
the
not.
best playoff basketball players to ever touch a basketball is what's going to happen this last
This
part of
isn't
the season.
playoffs, though.
Miami is always right there. Miami's always right there. They got to get in there. They're not doing exactly what they need to do. I saw Jimmy post on Instagram like yesterday.
Nope.
He's ready to go. He's saying the flip.
30-point
I
Nugget win.
believe them.
30-point
Jimmy
Nugget
Butler
win.
is going to take it.
No.
Jimmy Butler, as we hop
Completely
in to
disagree.
the second game on Thursday. Warriors at the Knicks. Knicks at home, one of the best teams in the NBA. And I like them.
Do you?
I do.
You like them?
I do. I enjoy the Knicks. I enjoy their roster. I enjoy watching them play against the Warriors team who struggled.
Well, guess what? I like them too. Give me New York.
Okay. I'm glad that we're decided on Warriors and Knicks. We head into Friday. Mavericks and Celtics. Second time that we're seeing both of these teams. We kind of covered them pretty well. But Jace.
I'm going to keep going with these upsets. Give me Dallas to win this one in Boston. I picked against Dallas last time, so I'll give it to them this time. You can have your word now. What do you got to say?
We just talked about how Boston's one of the best teams in the league. How they're
bound to lose a game or two here and there. It's the
Maybe here and
NBA.
there.
It's the
Not this
National
one.
Basketball
Not
Association.
this
They're
one.
not going to win every single basketball game. This isn't the Warriors in 2017 we're talking about.
Okay. No, I guess I see what you're saying. I just think you're wrong. And I think Boston, you can't bet against Boston.
Yeah, you can.
Look, if we were to put money on this, which is not supported by last call, I don't think we're allowed to say that we support that, but my money would be on Boston, and I feel like that's pretty simple. But Bucks at Bulls now on Friday as well. We head into those, and I think I'm gonna take a page. I'm gonna take a page out of your playbook here, and I'm gonna take Chicago. Give me the Bulls.
This is the same argument now. You can't bet against the Bucks.
Yes, you can.
Not against. No. I'm not against the Bulls.
I'm not betting against the Bucks. I'm betting against Doc Rivers. This team is not where it was at,
But they've won 3 games in a row now since the All-Star break.
They've won 3 games
They're
in a row
figuring
in
it
an
out.
82-game season.
I mean, Doc Rivers, he just got there. Give him some time to figure out
You
how to
sound like
use this
Doc.
squad with Giannis and Dame. He has the squad there. They're figuring it out. They're going to win this one. Trust me.
I sure hope they do, considering they're supposed to be the best team in the East. But
They were never supposed to be the best team in the East.
Okay,
Boston
Jace.
was.
well, they have the best player in the East.
Okay, yeah.
That I will say. Bucks and Bulls. The Bulls take it. Finally, on Sunday, primetime basketball. Clippers at Timberwolves, number 4 in the West, taking on number 1 in the West. What do you think? Maybe your turn to go first again, Jace.
This one was a toss-up for me, but I'm going to give it to the home court advantage in this one and Minnesota.
Minnesota?
Both teams, I mean, these are very evenly matched teams. I hope this is going to be a playoff series because I would love to watch these two go at it for a 7-game series. Minnesota, the home court advantage gives them the slight advantage, in my opinion.
Minnesota and the Clippers, I think it's a game where Minnesota's one of the best, or not one of them, they're probably the best defense
100%.
in the NBA. But like I said, 4 All-Stars over there on the Clippers. I'm expecting over 100 from them.
Dude,
at
you and the
least.
Clippers. You and the Clippers, man.
Hey, I'm rooting for the Clippers. I'm sorry. I think Clippers win.
One
And I'm
day
rooting
you're
for
going to
them.
pick against them one day.
Maybe one day. Not today. As the final matchup here on the Primetime Pick'em, Thunder at Suns. 2 teams with a lot of superstars up and down the roster. And I'm thinking, I like the Thunder. I like the Thunder.
Call me a Thunder hater. I pick against them twice in a row. Give me Phoenix.
I just don't- I
star
don't-
power. To me, their star power beats the young roster that Thunder have.
Well, the star power has failed the Suns time and time and time and time.
We'll see it come playoff
and time again. Because you can call on Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal and the whole squad to be there. But hey, when the lights shine bright, they're nowhere to be found. They're not a squad that's going to do anything in the postseason. They're not a squad that they don't rise to the occasion for the players that they have.
Let's go. See?
No, look. Same thing happened with Graham. Okay, the same thing happened with Graham. I got down early, and if we would have come back, give another semester a couple more weeks, we would have won that one too. But we'll be back next week. Score is going to favor me next time
No, it's
on
not.
Last Call.